When a human being dies, they encounter such extraordinary and incomprehensible mysteries of existence that it could truly astonish the living. Yet there are those who have been directly present at a person's final moments, individuals who know secrets of death unavailable to the everyday observer. One such specialist is Barbara Karnes, a caregiver who works with the terminally ill people who have been given a fatal diagnosis and no longer receive active medical intervention. Instead, these patients spend their final weeks and days waiting for the inevitable. Barbara herself has spoken openly about the profound nature of her calling. There's a persistent belief that many medical professionals become cynical over time, but Barbara disagrees. For over 20 years, she has witnessed deep sorrow and might, under ordinary circumstances, have grown detached or disillusioned. Instead, the opposite happened. Each day spent at the bedside of someone approaching life's final threshold filled her with reverence and awe. Far from turning into a hardened skeptic, she became convinced that something exists beyond our earthly existence. If anyone is in a position to judge, it's someone like Barbara, who has personally witnessed the last breaths of countless individuals. Through careful observation, Barbara compiled a unique handbook meticulously detailing the behavior of her patients at the very moments when they slipped away from our tangible world, their souls moving toward a realm of life beyond death. She noted that death is the great equalizer. Among her patients were both ordinary laborers and those of high social standing. But when a person dies, worldly status fades into irrelevance. Everyone, regardless of rank, faces the same unknown. Fear of death often intensifies if the dying person has already seen someone close to them endure a difficult and prolonged passing. Yet, according to Barbara's careful records, this fear typically dissolves shortly before death in more than half of her patients. Barbara also observed that in the weeks leading up to death, patients frequently report seeing and conversing with individuals who have passed away before them. According to her accounts, this is a widespread phenomenon. Over the course of a decade of work, she collected hundreds of such stories, leaving her with little doubt that the deceased returned during those final days to guide the living person into the afterlife. Often, the figure who appears is apparent, most commonly the patient's mother, someone who once guided them into this world and now seems to help guide them into the next. In one case, a dying woman, restless through her final night, awakened at dawn to gaze into an empty corner of the room. She smiled softly and whispered, "Mother, I'm so happy to see you." Shortly thereafter, she passed away peacefully. Barbara recalls another case in which the guiding figure was a patient's father. The patient, a 52-year-old woman, had been terrified at the thought of dying, determined to resist until her last breath. Yet 2 days before her passing, she began exchanging brief remarks with someone invisible to Barbara's eyes. When asked whom she was speaking to, the patient answered that it was her deceased father. Not long afterward, she calmly said, "Everything's fine, I'm not afraid," and soon after, she departed. Barbara admits she cannot explain these occurrences, but she believes them wholeheartedly, having been a first-hand witness. Reading about such things is one matter, feeling them in the room, sensing the intangible presence of another dimension, is an entirely different experience. In some instances, multiple family members who had passed on appeared to guide the dying individual. One elderly patient spent her final days talking with both her mother and brother, who had left this world before her. She would fall asleep each time with a serene smile. In her last conversation, she said, "Yes, Mother, I agree. It's time for me to go home." With those words, she passed gently into the unknown. Barbara notes that there are 3 prevailing theories attempting to explain such events. A physiological theory attributing them to oxygen deprivation and chemical imbalances in the brain. A psychological theory framing them as the mind's protective mechanism against the terror of death, and a spiritual theory suggesting the existence of a soul and an afterlife. Regardless of the explanation, these visions are real experiences for those who undergo them. Barbara feels certain that reality holds more layers than our physical world can reveal. Over the years, Barbara also observed that, as death nears, people lose interest in our familiar world. Perhaps, as life ebbs, the veil separating this realm from another grows thin, and the dying stand with one foot in each dimension. It might be for this reason that they see dear ones who passed before them, including, on occasion, their own children who tragically died young. Such encounters bring comfort, relief, and a profound sense of peace. Patients have also described witnessing radiant lights, unknown figures, and landscapes of astounding beauty. One patient asked Barbara, moments before passing, "Do you see these lights? They want me to follow them," and then slipped quietly away. Another spoke of angelic choirs and the gentle brush of wings, smiling serenely at the memory. Yet another looked at Barbara and said, "It's time for me to go home, where there are such beautiful lights and clouds," and departed that same day. For Barbara, these visions reassure not only the dying, but also those who care for them. She believes such experiences ease the transition into whatever lies beyond. All these stories and images have strengthened her faith that there is something far greater than we can comprehend in this life. At the very least, she takes comfort in the idea that when her own time comes, someone she loves might arrive to guide her forward, making the passage less frightening. After all, death already inspires enough fear. Perhaps it's a blessing to know that someone might meet us on the other side. What do you think? Would you want someone to greet you at the threshold between this life and the next? And if so, who would that be? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found meaning, comfort, or fascination in these stories, please give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, and enable notifications so you won't miss future explorations. Together, let's continue pushing beyond the horizon, discovering what mysteries may lie ahead.